When we think about the fight to end slavery in America, a few key names usually pop into our heads. But what if I told you the real story is this sprawling global epic of courage and teamwork? Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on a movement that was way bigger and way more international than you probably ever imagined. So let's just dive right in, because the real story, it's more complex, it's bigger, and honestly, it's so much more inspiring than the version we usually get. This wasn't just about a few famous faces. It was this huge network of incredibly brave people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And we have to start with two monumental figures. I mean, their names are basically synonymous with the cause, right? They were fighting for the exact same thing, but their methods, totally different. And both were absolutely necessary. First up, Harriet Tubman. She was feared by slave catchers and just revered by everyone seeking freedom. She was a genuine military leader on the ground. You know, the famous abolitionist John Brown didn't just admire her, he actually called her General Tubman because of her tactical genius and just raw, unbelievable courage. Now, look at this number. This isn't how many people she guided along the Underground Railroad, which by itself was incredible. No, this is the number of people she freed in one single armed raid that she commanded during the Civil War. It's called the Combahee Ferry Raid. Get this, she was the first woman in all of U.S. history to lead a military operation. Just amazing. So, while Tubman was leading raids, Frederick Douglass was waging a completely different kind of war. A war of words and ideas. He was born into slavery, and he didn't just steal his own freedom. He basically stole the power of language itself, and then turned it into a weapon for liberation. And this quote, it just nails his whole philosophy. He knew that freedom isn't something that's just handed to you. It has to be demanded. And he used everything he had, his powerful speeches, his influential books, and even his own picture. In fact, he became the most photographed American of the 19th century, all to fight racist stereotypes and demand justice on a global stage. So what does this tell us? Well, it shows that the movement needed both. It needed the boots-on-the-ground general, the one leading people through the darkness to safety, and it needed the world-class orator, the one shining a bright light on the injustice for the whole world to see. It was this incredible 1-2 punch of direct action and global advocacy. But here's the thing. These icons, they weren't acting alone, not even close. Their work was amplified by other people who had different kinds of power, especially one crucial ally who had a printing press. And that brings us to a guy named William Lloyd Garrison. He was armed with his convictions, and he started The Liberator, an abolitionist newspaper that was completely, totally uncompromising. But, his most important role wasn't just as a publisher. He was a connector. He was like the hub in this growing network of resistance. Here's a perfect example of what I mean. He didn't just report on the movement, he was actively building it. So when he met Edmonia Lewis, the super talented Black and Native American artist, he didn't just write an article about her. No, he wrote a personal letter of introduction for her to a mentor. That letter opened a door that helped her become an internationally famous sculptor. That's what the network looked like in action. Okay, so now let's zoom way out, because we're about to uncover a part of this story that almost never gets told. The fight for freedom wasn't just happening inside the United States. It involved allies from way beyond its borders, creating this truly international team effort. I want to introduce you to Vicente Guerrero. He was a man of African, indigenous, and Spanish heritage. He goes from being a revolutionary general all the way to becoming the second president of Mexico. Now, here in the US, most of us have never heard his name, but what he did created a massive shift in the fight for freedom. Just look at these dates. In 1829, President Guerrero abolished slavery in Mexico. That is 34 years before Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. 34 years. That single act turned Mexico into this vital sanctuary, a beacon of freedom for thousands of people fleeing slavery in the U.S. It created this whole southern route to liberty, decades before the Civil War even started. And that southern route was often supported by another group of incredibly powerful allies, indigenous nations. The Seminole people in Florida, for instance, were welcoming people escaping slavery as early as the 1700s. They formed these resilient Black Seminole communities and literally fought side by side against injustice. And the Seminoles were not alone, not by a long shot.
There was this huge, coordinated network of indigenous support that was absolutely essential to the cause. You had the Shawnee and the Wyandot in the Midwest, the Tuscarora in the Carolinas, the Iroquois Confederacy up in the Northeast. All of these nations provided sanctuary, they provided guidance, and safe passage for people seeking freedom.
So when you connect all these dots, you've got the general, the orator, the publisher, the Mexican president, all these indigenous nations. What's the big takeaway? What do we see when we look at this new, expanded map of freedom? The most important thing to remember is this. The fight for freedom was not the work of a few lone heroes. It was a massive, complex, and incredibly diverse coalition of courage. It was a global movement that crossed borders and cultures, and it was fought with raids and with speeches, with printing presses, and with presidential decrees. And this history leaves us with a really powerful question for our own time. It kind of challenges us to look beyond the usual faces, to see that the most important work for justice is often done by these huge networks. It really forces us to ask, who is forming those crucial, often unseen alliances for justice today?
Heritage Owl's Underground Railroad Starboard game is a mini history lesson wrapped in a bundle of fun and brainy enlightenment, allowing players to navigate the freedom seeker's path while learning about white and black abolitionists facing unpredictable challenges, and reveals transformative solutions from their struggles, reflecting how similar battles in a new and elusive guise prevails today. You'll need the unwavering backing of the likes of William Still and Marianne Shadd carry cards. Additionally, the unwavering courage embodied by the likes of Charles Sumner and Elijah Parrish Lovejoy will serve you well. They are truly to die for in every conceivable sense. Cards like that of John Brown presents moral dilemmas, offering potential escape at a cost, reflecting the dramatic twists of John Brown's life and the game's commitment to historical authenticity. Conversely, the cleverness of the Henry Box Brown card. This little gem proves that sometimes a dash of creativity can take you way further than throwing punches. Prepare for a daring escape. Will you spill ink and use the power of words like Frederick Douglass, or unleash your inner hero and embody the brave spirit of Harriet Tubman? A little heads up. Reminiscent of the courageous days of the Underground Railroad, you won't be flush with cash on go like in Monopoly. Here, it's all about sharpening that brilliant brain of yours and counting on the goodwill of random folks. The clock is ticking and the hounds are closing in. Let the adventure begin, one move at a time.